Aradale Mental Asylum, once referred to as the Ararat Lunatic Asylum. The Aradale Asylum was a mental institution in Ararat, a rural town in Victoria, Australia, currently thought of as a ghost town. The Aradale Asylum campus contains over 70 now abandoned buildings that once housed over 1,000 patients. Aradale and its sister asylums at Kew and Beechworth were designed to accommodate the growing variety of patients in need of psychiatric care in Victoria. Aradale Mental Asylum history. Construction of the asylum began in 1864, with the guardhouse being built just a couple of years later in 1866, although the list of patients admitted started in 1865. The asylum was designed by G.W. Vivian and John James Clark, Vivian's assistant. Aradale was designed when the asylums were being built at Kew and Beechworth and was the first of the three that were completed. The asylum was built as a campus. Like several asylums of the time, it had been meant to be self-sufficient and supply the patients, or inmates, as they were referred to at the time, with labor that was believed to assist in their treatments. This is like a lot of the asylums built in the United States that were made according to the Kirkbride Plan. One such asylum is the notorious Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum in New York. Aradale had over 500 employees and nearly 70 buildings, with the originals being built in the 1860s and the newest in 1991. Despite its closure as an asylum in 1993, the facility was used to house female prisoners throughout the renovation of the Dame Phyllis Frost Center. The use of ha-ha walls, which consisted of a trench on one side of the hospital and a flat surface on the other, was a distinguishing feature of the asylum. From the inside, the walls were tall and prevented escape, whereas from the outside, the walls looked low, so passers-by didn't assume it was a jail. The decommissioning of Aradale began in the early 90s and started with transferring patients to alternative facilities. After the end of the year in 1993, the Ararat Forensic Psychiatry Center was the only site still open. In 1997, the remaining patients were transferred to Rosanna until a replacement asylum by the name of Thomas Embling Hospital was completed. Today, the location is used for an olive processing facility and wineries, as well as the latest facilities for Melbourne Technical School. Aradale's patient. When Aradale was in use, the criminally insane were placed in run-of-the-mill prisons, left without the specialized care they required. The government of Victoria saw the requirement for a proper care facility and wanted Aradale to be the place that would relieve the prison system of the criminally insane. Soon it became a place for people tormented by mental illnesses like postnatal depression, autism, anxiety, depression, PTSD, and trisomy 21. This mixture of criminals and members of society who required Aradale's special care created conflict and violence at the asylum. During its 130 years of operation, over 13,000 inmates, patients, and employees died at the asylum. This left a dark emotional stain on the property, which will be seen these days. Some locals even swear that the Aradale Asylum is the single most haunted location in all of Australia. Ghosts of Ardale. While reports exist of apparitions, phantom sounds, and visitors experiencing nausea, fainting, and pain, some ghosts from Aradale's past have made themselves known to those who are alive these days. A ghostly governor. George Fiddemont was the last governor of the Gaul. In 1886, George was showing a group of individuals around the asylum when they started down a set of stairs. Suddenly, George falls to his knees, suffering a serious heart attack. He died on the spot. These days, tour guides and guests hear heavy footsteps and banging on that same stairwell, but once they go to take a glance, nobody is there. A ghost named Gary. Gary Webb was a career criminal and had an extended rap sheet when he was finally taken into custody and sent to remain at Aradale. The crime that sent him to Aradale happened once he was in the process of robbing a pizzeria. He noticed a police officer, and rather than getting caught, he decided to shoot the officer. The police officer survived, and Webb was caught. He was sentenced to 14 years in jail, and was told that with good behavior, he could also be out sooner than that. Gary got comfortable at Aradale and began to write letters to the media, telling them the inhuman and alarming things he was going to do once he got out. Citizens began to worry, and a special law was passed to keep him contained at Aradale for the rest of his life. Gary began to self-mutilate at this time and was hospitalized more than 70 times. Today, Gary is alleged to haunt his former room, screaming at guests to get out and pushing them out the door. A haunted workplace. Visitors to the asylum who happened to walk past the office of the previous superintendent report a sudden bitter taste in their mouth. That is a strange sensation. However, according to reports, the superintendent became depressed and committed suicide at his workplace by swallowing cyanide. This is thought to be a man named Dr. William L. Mullen, who died in 1912. The ghost of the women's ward. The entirety of the women's ward is haunted by a ghost named Nurse Carrie. She is said to watch over the tour guides. Her apparition, as well as others, have been seen in the women's ward donning old-time nurses' uniforms and disappearing into stone walls. Others report a tingling sensation in their head when they enter what used to be the shock therapy room. Coincidence? Perhaps not. J Ward's phantoms in J Ward. Visitors report feeling unwell and suddenly afraid. Others slip into a trance and are only released from it once they exit the building. Some folks have even been bitten or pushed while walking through J Ward. The ward said it was haunted by 3 prisoners who were hanged and buried on the property. They are said to be restless because they weren't given a proper burial, and their graves are only marked with 3 scratches on the jail wall.